Kindly subscribe and enjoy all of our content on the channel. Now into our first story. The Media Coalition Against Galamsey has announced plans to organize a red band protest against illegal mining in solidarity with organized labor's indefinite strike set to begin on October 10, 2024. The protest aims at amplifying the calls for government to address the Galamsey menace following its failure to meet demands to impose a ban on illegal mining. Participants of the protest are encouraged to show their support by wearing red bands on their arms or heads and tying red bands on cars, motorbikes, bicycles, and other vehicles. They are also urged to share photos and videos of their participation on social media with the hashtags Stop Galamsey Now, Save Our Land, and Save Our Future. The Ghana Civil Society Organizations platform expressed their support for the strike, emphasizing the urgent need for government's action to address the extensive damage caused by Galamsey activities. As tensions rise, the General Agricultural Workers Union of TUC has directed its members to commence a nationwide strike starting Thursday, October 10, 2024. Still on Galamsey and strike, Dr. Solomon Kwarteng-Foku, a lecturer at the Kumasi Technical University and a concerned member of the Technical University Teachers Association of Ghana, TUTAG, who is strongly against the pending planned strike by organized labor against illegal mining known as Galamsey, says the protest won't yield any results. In an interview on ABC in the morning, he stated that the call for a state of emergency cannot truly be described as an emergency because the water bodies have been destroyed over the years. He questioned the insistence by organized labor on the government to act in their favor since this government has been in power for almost 8 years. To him, organized labor's approach is a lazy man's approach and it is not the best approach. His comments come in the wake of increasing tensions surrounding government's response to illegal mining and its devastating effects on the environment and public health.
Some of us are saying that not every small-scale miner is destroying the environment. Why should you lump all of them together? Why can't there be a process to separate the wheat or the chaff from the grains? Why should somebody suffer because others are not doing the right thing? So if I ask you now, if some journalists are reporting wrongly or doing wrong things, and then we are saying that you have more radio stations, so it will be difficult to select those who are doing wrong. As a result of that, you should ban all radio stations or you should ban all media. If you don't do that, that is not the way to solve a problem. That is not the way. You don't use wrong to solve wrong. You can't let somebody to suffer unnecessarily. It is not the best approach. That is the lazy man approach. I can tell you, that is the lazy man approach. That is the lazy man approach.
Come in?
You don't. Why can't if you have issued licenses, to genuine people to doing small-scale mining, then it will be very easy for you to track them. It's very easy to control them. It is very easy to manage them. Issue is not even only the procedure or the process. It's not only. Some of us are saying that not every small-scale miner is destroying the environment. Why should you lump all of them together? Why can't there be a process to separate the wheat or the chaff from the grains? Why should somebody suffer because others are not doing the right thing? So if I ask you now, if some journalists are reporting wrongly or doing wrong things, and then we are saying that you have more radio stations, so it will be difficult to select those who are doing wrong. As a result of that, you should ban all radio stations.
In a sharp rebuttal on the ABC in the morning show, Awula Sewa, Executive Director of Eco-Conscious Citizens, criticized Dr. Solomon Foku for prioritizing procedural engagements over the immediate danger posed by contaminated water supplied to Ghanaians.
Divide and rule. Divide and rule is a very old method of trying to disrupt something that is going on. And I'm sure organized labor, being veterans of strikes and demonstrations, have known that there will be attempts to infiltrate, and attempts to do divide and rule. So I'm sure they are very prepared for this. All right-thinking members of the society, all Ghanaians, who are concerned about the fact that we're being poisoned to death, that we've had so many conversations upon conversations upon conversations. The president, about 8 years ago, put his presidency on the line, and things have gone from bad to worse. So something drastic needs to be done, and before we all die, we face an existential threat. So organized labor really had no alternative. There was a press conference on 11th September. Eco-conscious citizens were there. You know, so many CSOs, it was organized by Media Coalition Against Galamsey. So many Christian Council, so many organizations were involved. And we all said one thing: this has to stop before we are all poisoned to death.
Executive Director of Eco-Conscious Citizens, Awula Sewa, says something drastic needs to be done about the illegal mining in the country. Speaking on ABC in the morning, Awula stressed that organized labor has no option than to embark on their intended strike, adding that things have moved from bad to worse under this government. She mentioned that illegal mining has to stop before the country is poisoned to death.
So in fact, even if you have a license and you go outside the parameters of your license, you're engaged in illegal mining. And even the big companies, we can't even monitor them. How much more the thousands of small-scale miners? That's why we said pause it until you can get your act together. So these were the fundamental demands. And of course, revoke all licenses, prospecting, mining, everything that has been granted to mining, forest reserve. And the government was given up to the 30th of September. Today is what date in October? The government could have acted if it was minded to do so. It is disappointing that so many people are more concerned in private gain, more concerned in votes than in the welfare of Ghanaians. Recently, tubers and plantain from Ghana were found to contain mercury. Our water has been polluted and poisoned. It has entered the food chain. The soil has been poisoned, and we are eating poisoned food. What more do Ghanaians need to hear before they understand that the strike was not taken lightly? It's nobody's pleasure to go on strike.
Still on the Galamsey menace, the Seventh-day Adventist Church has disclosed that illegal mining, commonly known as Galamsey, is making it impossible for the church to baptize new converts. According to the church, the pollution of Ghana's water bodies is affecting the soul-winning drive of the gospel. Executive Secretary of the Northern Ghana Union of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Pastor Edward Nyako, said the church has created its own stream for baptism in order to keep up with its work. He stated that Galamsey has come to destroy all the water bodies, so it is also affecting our baptism. Previously, we were baptizing in rivers, but nowadays all the water bodies are contaminated. Therefore, that has resulted in this church to build this baptism so that all those who have been baptized and all pastors who will be officiating will not be contaminated. Galamsey has become topical in recent months, with many organizations and individuals calling for a ban on all forms of mining. Meanwhile, organized labor has taken its demands a step forward with a strike scheduled for Thursday, October 10, to compel the government and its actors to take action towards ending the menace. On organized labor strike, the University of Ghana chapter of the University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG-UG, has voted in favor of organized labor's impending industrial action on October 11 through throwing its weight behind the internally rifted strike. In a decisive vote, 355 members, making up to 80.14%, supported the strike, while 88 members, 19.86%, opposed to it. Out of a total of 443 votes cast, Professor Ransford Jampo, president of UTAG-UG, has strongly criticized the government's inaction, citing the need for more decisive measures to combat illegal mining. His comments follow a closed-door meeting between President Akufo-Addo and organized labor leaders, where the president requested more time to address the issue. The strike, announced on October 1, is a response to government's failure to meet organized labor's demands for a total ban on mining and a state of emergency to combat galamsey. The Minister of Information, Fatimatu Abubakar, has announced that government, in its continued efforts to clamp down on the long-standing menace of illegal small-scale mining, has concluded operational measures to intensify the ongoing Operation Halt, which is led by the Ghana Armed Forces to rid our water bodies of all forms of mining activities. This phase of the operation, she said, will be done in conjunction with the Small-Scale Miners Association of Ghana. A statement issued on Wednesday, October 9, said. Earlier, Madam Fatimatu Abubakar indicated that government has agreed with labor unions on a number of steps to be taken to fight the illegal small-scale mining galamsey menace. The steps, she says, includes a collaboration between the Attorney General and the Chief Justice to ensure swift adjudication of illegal mining cases. To that end, she said, the government is surprised by the decision of organized labor to proceed with an industrial action over galamsey. Members of organized labor have resolved to proceed with a nationwide strike on October 10, despite being urged by President Akufo-Addo to give him more time to address their concerns during a meeting held on October 4. Spokesperson of organized labor Joshua Ansah said in Accra on October 7 that they will not back down. The organized labor's meeting was held behind closed doors. However, leadership insisted that it would proceed with the strike on October 10 as stated. Statements on the measures that have been taken against galamsey. Let's take a look at them. Government takes further action to tackle illegal mining, and this was issued by the Minister of Information, Fatimatu Abubakar. Government, in its continued effort to clamp down on the long-standing menace of illegal small-scale mining, has concluded operational measures to intensify the ongoing Operation Halt, which is led by the Ghana Armed Forces to rid the river bodies of all forms of mining activity. So this time there is Operation Halt, and it's led by the Armed Forces. The Armed Forces will be working in hand with the Association of Small-Scale Miners so that this phase of the operation will be done effectively. Government says that it's reasserting that river bodies and forest reserves remain red zones and reiterates its commitment to the fight against illegal small-scale mining and calls on all stakeholders to join the fight. Managing Director of Gihok Distilleries, Maxwell Kofi Juma, has threatened workers of Gihok to call off the strike or else face their wrath.
Say Gihok for Muti. What do permit Juma?
It's a public sector. Are you threatening?
No, what do permit Juma?
The managing director of Gihok.
Me say what do permit Juma?
Obi a Gihok no say organized labor say yankwa. Obi a man.
Okwa me unedi.
Hey, Kofi Juma.
Me am be me tie kan. What do pako?
Obi o ya Juma Gihok say organized labor say yankwa.
Yes.
Okwa obi unedi.
Where unedi? Ko ho de kwaju pay.
Are they not part of organized labor?
Ya be ye ni labor laws for Ghana.
Your labor laws.
Yes. So I say won't me man enka say wo ko strike because Keskin Bayare. What has it got to do with Gihok?
It's a national concern.
National concern, let it be national concern, but not Gihok concern.
Gihok is a government institution, or
no? Ghana for yes, and there are rules. Until be teho now one ye na ne kon ye ne ya no sorry ana o ba be kika nsem ana mo sumu di akire we do pako no mo kra no mo wesi e time because enya sa phone good yo
Hey, and the obi a want use your best or organize the work contract. Hey, as a subset in prayer, say, any answer, no.
The first Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Joseph Osei-Wusu, has also been speaking on this.
Oh, on my number constitution. Mobia Quine said, Bibia Hanan, a person a chin, and Roman Quine organized labor there. No, I'm confused. So withdraw services there. You just say, "What's would you man no?" Bia, young local government services for. You need a bank can we anyway. Dear, you didn't know about so penny. You did this a bank CCA and tea. Said the bear, a bank who say near brain tea. Any local government service munina. Young Quadrum Sana Metea Seal, Muyusu withdrawal of your services. What the idea for welfare and now Mujumo who was be. They say they have so much about national issues. Yeah, I do Sabriana some cano I think. But no crap, say, Minini say. I'm saying, no, more draw services.
Organized labor for
Yes, beyond, goes beyond Galamsey. It's about.
Joining us on phone to have a discussion is security consultant Colonel Festus Abwaje. Good afternoon, Colonel. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Colonel, government within the span of 2 days has broken its silence on the pressure from organized labor by announcing a number of measures. First off, what is your take on the steps taken by government in addressing this issue?
Well, I am not exactly sure about the measures that you are alluding to. Now, in that Ministry of Information release, all that we are told is that the armed forces are being deployed to go and combat or stop Galamsey, period. Is that what the government is saying constitute the measures to stop Galamsey? Secondly, the context of that letter, I think, is a bit misleading. If the government says continuing efforts, which efforts are continuing? Because it's more than a couple of years ago, or some time back, that the government itself recalled the armed forces from this Operation Galam Stop or whatever. At least as a Ghanaian, I'm not aware of any operation that the armed forces or any security force is conducting to stop Galamsey. So it's a bit misleading for the government to say in our continuing efforts, you say it. But let's come back to the measures. The terseness of that letter or communication suggests that either the government is not fully conversant with the scale of Galamsey that we are talking about, or it is only trying to, suggest that it is doing something when indeed whatever it's going to do is not sufficient. Now, sending the armed forces to deploy on a number of river bodies, and there are quite a number of them, the big rivers, and indeed some other tributaries of these small big rivers, the Prague, the Ankobra, the Tano, the Brim, the Bonsa, the this, the that, the Black Water, the White Water. The government needs to give a bit more explanation as to the start date, the deployment areas, what exactly is the armed forces or are the armed forces supposed to go and do? Are they supposed to arrest the illegal miners? Are they supposed to confiscate their equipment? And if they confiscate the equipment, where do they store them? Who documents, for instance? Now, what about the chemicals that they are using, especially the mercury? If they are confiscated, where do we take them? And then I've been, informing Ghanaians that at some of these Galamsey camps, there are women who are offering themselves, as a service. And there is information that some of them are trafficked from neighboring countries. So you need an operation that doesn't only deploy the armed forces, but also deploys other expertise to go in and rescue these women, and then process them and see how we can repatriate them to their countries of origin. Some of these camps have men who are armed, like militia. Now, when they are arrested, or how are they going to be arrested if they open fire? I know that soldiers or security forces can self-defend themselves, but we need clarity on the rules of engagement so that we don't get into a situation of shooting to kill, where at the end of the day, some innocent Ghanaians or innocent people get killed. Then let's look at the technologies that are being deployed on these rivers and in these forests. Many, if not all of them, are imported, whether they are generators, whether they are pumping machines, whether they are chamfans or the parts of chamfans. Certainly the caterpillars or the earth-moving equipment are all imported. Now, what is the government doing to stop the importation of these technologies? Well, we don't need them, I suppose. Or we can issue licenses to construction companies who show proof that they need them. We need a more comprehensive plan to address, this Galamsey menace. And I'm afraid that in that letter that this minister has released, I don't see any such plan. It's only a statement, and I think I'm entitled to say that the government is just saying something to assuage those who are threatening to, to go on strike or to demonstrate.
Colonel, government's aims by this letter to partner the small-scale miners and by deploying the military to mining sites to combat the menace. So the work is to deploy the military and for the military to partner with the small-scale miners. How best will you recommend that this task force operates, since the same mechanism was employed during the previous operations?
See, this country is being governed by a government that is elected into power. Now, apart from the national level, the government devolves through our regions as regional coordinating councils to our local councils. So any operation of this nature must necessarily involve the local authorities. Even if the armed forces are to partner with the small-scale miners, the small-scale mining is taking place in areas under the jurisdictions of local authorities. All the areas in Ghana have chiefs. So every inch of Ghanaian territory is under the authority of one chief or the other. The partnership needs to be broader than small-scale miners and, if you like, the armed forces. And then I've suggested, for instance, when I talked about the prostitutes, but more because of those who are being humanly trafficked into Ghana. It is not the work of small-scale miners or the armed forces to go and release them or process them. You need the Department of Social Welfare to come in with expertise around gender and so on and so forth. So all that I'm saying is that the plan that has been announced by the government is not comprehensive. If it is comprehensive, the government has not fully explained what this plan is about. What are the rules of engagement of the armed forces? God, invariably, from now onwards, when the armed forces come into contact with some of the Galamseyers, fire might be exchanged. People might jump into rivers. Some may be drowned, for instance. And I've already asked, what are the armed forces supposed to do with the equipment that they seize? Who documents them? Where do we store them? Who provides security? Now, we've been through all of this before. So for a government to issue a one-page letter, saying that I am doing something, I'm saying what the government says is doing is not transparent.
Well, Colonel.
And somebody like me doesn't understand exactly what the government says it is trying to do.
Colonel, some members of state institutions such as GEHOC have warned their members to stay off the strike or face sanctions. What, in your view, on this development, as many have raised concerns, what is your view of this?
I think this question must be addressed to labor experts.
You have just 1 minute.
Well, Colonel Festus Abuaje retired is a security expert, and he was giving us his opinion on all of this. But we'll engage further so that we understand what is going on at the moment. But Colonel says that government's letter is not enough. The statements by government on this issue, especially on Operation Halt, is not enough, and government must come again so that we all understand what it aims and plans to do. Away from that, the Director of Planning and Program at the National Road Safety Authority, Mr. Martin Osuafram, has urged all political parties to adhere to road safety codes and practices as the 2024 general elections draw near. Speaking at the launch of the 25th celebration of the National Road Safety Authority, Mr. Fram said all political parties, together with its political members, must go by the road safety codes to ensure fewer casualties during and after the elections. Of the National Election Security Task Force and Inspector General of the Police Service, Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare, has charged all stakeholders, including political parties, civil society organizations, and electorates, to engage in constructive critique of each other, devoid of insults and violence mongering. His comments follow a meeting of the National Election Security Task Force with the West African Elders Forum ahead of the elections of 2024 to discuss the readiness of the Security Task Force ahead of the election. He also urged the stakeholders to constructively criticize the task force during the election to ensure that they do the right thing to maintain peace before, during, and after the elections.
So seeing our uncles, fathers, and brothers and sisters visiting us as we prepare towards our elections, we want to make a few things emphatically clear. Over the years, we used to plan from the point of view of security towards our election as an event. But in recent times, we have institutionalized and mainstream election security in our all operations. So election security management has become a process instead of an event. So if you look at it carefully, you'll see that our election activities started as soon as, and actually 3-4 months after the last election was conducted in 2020. And we look forward to urging all other stakeholders who have something to do, especially the political parties, the EC, civil society, and everybody, to work with us, support us, advise us, encourage us, constructively criticize us, so that at the end of the day, we will get it right, and each one of us will be proud as individuals, and will be proud as a country, will be proud as Africans. And we know that with the determination that we come with, we are ready for that. So seeing our uncles, fathers, and brothers and sisters.
Member of Parliament's Defence and Interior Committee and MP for Wa West, Peter Tobu, has commended the IGP of Ghana Police, George Ekufu-Dampare, for creating a dedicated electoral security office. Reacting to news on the readiness of the Joint Security Task Force ahead of the 2024 elections on ABC in the morning, he praised the IGP's foresight in recognizing the potential challenges that could arise during the electoral period and considered his initiative as a proactive measure to ensure a safe and peaceful electoral process in the country.
Something that I'd love to share. We used to have the National Election Security Task Force activated in an election year. But since Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare was appointed, what I saw him do was that he created an office, a whole office, manned by a commissioner, talking about electoral security. And I think that was quite impressive. What it means is that they realize that election is a cycle. And from one cycle to the other is a continuum. So you don't have to wait until the election year for you to constitute the National Election Security Task Force. Electoral security should be part of the security sector, and that is exactly what they've done. So I'm sure they've done a lot of research. They've gathered data, they've analyzed, they've drawn their strategies, they've looked at the tactical competencies of all the things that they want to do. And if he says that election 2024 is in safe hands, in the area of security, I want to believe that they can do and do it better.
MP for Wa West, Peter Tobu, also cautioned the National Security Task Force led by the IGP, Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare, regarding the critical need for robust security arrangements ahead of the upcoming elections. According to him, incidents of violence and unrest that were recorded in previous elections due to poor security arrangement protocols, particularly in hotspot areas, ought not be repeated.
Police Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare will review the files of 2020 elections and tell the system or the sector that we would not want to see a soldier in uniform at a polling station. That the soldiers will be well armed, well prepared to back the police and be on standby. That if they call the soldiers to respond, everybody around will know that at this material moment, if the soldiers are responding, it is very appropriate. But we don't want soldiers to turn themselves into police and be roaming around polling stations. No. The police leading the charge should ensure that apart from the individual police officers assigned to polling stations, they should have a strong task force within the reach of 5 minutes should anything happen. And I know that they would have identified some hotspots. It's always the normal thing to do. All those hotspots that are identified, we should never take it for granted that the other areas that we think that they are not hotspots, they could actually turn into hotspots within the single of an eye, depending on the behavior of the man or woman who is in charge of the election, representing the EC. So if they are able to do that, I think we should be able to have some 4 phases, right? The police, Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare, will review the files of 2020 elections.
And he has called on law enforcement agencies to crack the whip on offenders who incite violence ahead of the elections, among other measures to serve as a deterrent to others. Speaking on ABC in the morning, security analysts said the tensions are high ahead of the elections, hence any insidious and reckless comments can throw the country into violence. He therefore called on law enforcement agencies to deal with the actors that incite violence to calm down tensions ahead of the elections.
Everybody's work matters. The police would have to enforce the laws. They would have to ensure that oblivion of your status in society or whichever part of the political divide you come from, you are dealt with accordingly as enshrined in the law. But if you don't punish someone for doing the wrong things, that has implications on our security. Tomorrow another person will do, and you wouldn't have that moral effrontery to go after that person because you end up opening the floodgates. So surely all of us have a very important role to play in safeguarding the peace and security of the country as we go into this everybody doing his work. I mean, because everybody's work matters. The police would have to enforce the laws. They would have to ensure that oblivion of your status in society or whichever part of the political divide you come from, you are dealt with accordingly as enshrined in the law. But if you don't punish someone for doing the wrong things, that has implications on our security, tomorrow another person will do, and you wouldn't have that moral effrontery to go after that person, because you end up opening the floodgates. So surely,
away from elections, international relations expert Dr. Ishmael Lovo has called on Ghanaians living in Lebanon to adhere to government's advice of evacuating Lebanon immediately for their safety. Earlier this week, government of Ghana strongly advised all Ghanaians living in Lebanon to evacuate the country as soon as possible. The urgent evacuation order was issued due to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration's grave worries about the possible harm to Ghanaian citizens in the midst of Lebanon's worsening situation. Speaking on ABC in the morning, Dr. Ishmael Lovo highlighted that Ghanaians living in Lebanon must heed to the advice of the ministry and quickly evacuate, as their safety is not guaranteed in Lebanon.
Any economic gain, and they must heed to the advice of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It is rare for Ghana to issue some of these things. So normally, before we go into issuing some of these things, rather than there have been a lot of consultation, there have been a lot of monitoring to know how intense the situation become. Remember when COVID broke out, in consultation with the Chinese Republic, although the popular opinion is that we should evacuate our students from China, we hold on and hopefully and of course the history will bear us that many Ghanaians stayed in China during COVID and were well taken care of. So you see that before the Ministry of Foreign Affairs will come with this kind of thing, then they have monitored the situation and has gotten to a point where they felt it is necessary for the citizens to leave. So I will appeal to the citizens not to be recalcitrant, not to take that position. When we come to Ghana, there's nothing for us. There's a lot of things you can do here. First is that preserve your life, then you can begin to look around.
Back to illegal mining, Galamsey, and the matters arising. Let's speak with the National Communications Director of the Ghana Association of Small-Scale Mining, Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Good afternoon, Abdul Razak. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
Abdul Razak, before we even get into the discussion, a group calling themselves Responsible Small-Scale Miners Association of Ghana, with their General Secretary Mark Kondria, have issued a notice to protest against organized labor tomorrow. Are you aware of this group?
Thank you, and good afternoon to your listeners and everybody. In fact, I also just heard it. I've not seen it, but I've heard it, but I don't know the motive behind it, because this is an issue we want to resolve when it comes to illegal mining activities. And the destructions of our forest reserves and then the river bodies are very dear to our heart, and everybody, we are all fighting to see to it that we can resolve the problem. So if such a group is calling for to demonstrate against labor, I don't even know the reason why they are against demonstrating against labor, because labor never attack small-scale miners. Labor is only asking that government should put some measures and make sure that our forest reserves and water bodies will not be depleted and then will not be destroyed. So we, as an association, we are pushing very hard to see to it that we can collaborate with labor, organize the civil society as well as government, so that we see how best we can take this people out of the river bodies and then the forest reserve. So if a group is also popping up calling for this, we are a national association of small-scale miners, which have been in existence for a very long time, for more than 20 years, and we are being facilitated by the Minerals Commission, whereby the laws are governed and everything. So if that group is I don't know the angle they are also looking at it, the spectacle they are also wearing, but we are seeing it to be a collaborative thing, and then we take the destructive, the destructors out of the river bodies and the forest reserves.
That the general public should disregard the group and not pay attention to them?
For now, we need to move in the right direction. Labor union is not fighting anybody. They just want our country to be reshaped. and we need to all come together and then challenge that course. But that is why we, the association, is pleading with labor to exercise patience. Going on ahead with a strike, they should exercise patience. So far as we are all coming together as industry players, we are small scale miners. We want to partner government as well as the organized labor and all eradicate this illegal miners on the river borders and those. So for now, we are concentrating, and we've spoken with government, and government have now agreed that no, they have to partner with small scale, and then we'll see how best we can bring these illegal ones out, so that they will not be mixing the two, always calling illegal small scale, which we don't have any illegal small scale. We have illegal mining and we have small scale. So if small scale miners, we've availed ourselves and we're all teaming up, and then we are even calling on civil society and organized labor to all team up, and let's see how we can take this people out. Why not? We need to move on the same direction.
Abdul Razak, in teaming up with government, in teaming up and partnering, how is your association going to do this partnering to fight the illegal mining activities as announced by government?
Yes, what we have our task force already, whereby they are in existence, and we were managing our own affairs as an association, making sure that our monitoring team will go around on our members, those who are recalcitrant, then the task force goes after them and then they stop their work. So later we volunteered ourselves and we're fighting these illegal miners on these river bodies. But because we is an association and we have our own task forces, and those people were behind it and they were creating a whole lot of problem. So by so doing, I think politicians came in, some of the chiefs, some security agencies, and sometimes when we even arrest these illegal miners and we send them to the police station, you will see people coming behind to tell us that, oh, these are our boys. And so it got to a point that these illegal miners, the strength to even come after our task force, and they even shot our commander. And it's by God's grace, if not, that guy would have even passed away. But now that government is now giving us the support, which means we are going to move with the security agencies, and then so that people will know that it is not just a task force which is doing their own thing. It is a thing that we are doing to save Mother Ghana. So partnering with them, and we know these illegal miners, we know where they are, and we can go after them, and we'll get results out of it. So that's why we said we should just give us some time. I think we've adopted the Green River before, and we've acted, and Ghana Water Company came out with their report to show that, yes, we've done a whole lot of work, and we can still replicate it and then do it as it is.
In duplicating it or replicating it and doing it as it is?
I said replicating
it as it is. What strategy is your association, together with the Ghana Armed Forces, applying to make a change to this issue that we are battling with?
You know, my sister, this is a national issue that we are all dealing with. And when we talk of strategy, I think it's a collaborative thing with us and security agencies. So let's leave it as such, and let's see from tomorrow going. You will see any moment from now, you will see what is going on, because we've already given a warning to all people who are on these river bodies to be very careful. We are coming after them, and by Friday we are having a big forum at Eastern Region, which is Osino Enclave, bringing everybody to sensitize them and then tell them what we are up to. And we are not going to hide anybody. So if they hear us and they pack their tents out of these river bodies, fair enough, because we are not there to go and kill people. We are not there to go and do anything. But if they hear us, then they know that, yes, what they are doing is wrong, and they themselves voluntarily, today and tomorrow, they are able to pack out, fair enough. If not, we are coming after them. But as for the strategy and the way we are going to go about it, it's about security. So we can still find a way of handling that.
Okay, since it's about security, at least let me find out, what is the timeline you are envisaging that you can use to achieve what you are setting out to do?
My sister, this is a sickness which has been developed for so many years. So getting the antidotes, you can't just say today or tomorrow, but we are assuring people that, or the Ghanaian populace, it shouldn't take us 2 weeks. They will see a whole lot of difference in this country.
A whole lot of difference in the country. We'll be looking forward to speaking with you more on these strategies as we get into the fight against Galamsey. Thank you for speaking with us, Abdul Razak.
Thank you for
Abdul Razak Al Hassan is the communications director for the Association of Small Scale Miners. He says that they are partnering with the Ghana Armed Forces. Says that because it is a security measure, he wouldn't want to talk about it much, but to remind Ghanaians that they have initially done this before as an association. They got into some of the rivers and were able to eliminate some of these illegal miners from there, and said that the Ghana Water Company was even able to attest to the fact of the work that they did. We'll be looking forward to speaking with them more on these things against illegal mining in the country. Away from that, the Director of Planning and Program at the National Road Safety Authority, Mr. Martin Owusu-Afram, has urged all political parties to adhere to road safety codes and practices as the 2024 general elections draw near. Speaking at the launch of the 25th celebration of the National Road Safety Authority, Mr. Afram said all political parties, together with its political members, must go by the road safety codes to ensure fewer casualties during and after the elections.
The National Road Safety Authority is 25 years old, and we invited you here to celebrate with us. It's been quite an arduous journey promoting safety all these years. It came with its successes and its challenges, but we are very hopeful that going forward, we'll be achieving a lot together with the media and our key stakeholders. And permit me to also use this medium to touch on the political parties and the election activities. The National Road Safety Authority recognized that we've been having some associated increases in crashes, injuries, and deaths, especially during the election years. So this year we've been engaging the political actors from the parties, the CSOs, the Electoral Commission, the clergy, and all the active players in the landscape. We have not left out the party supporters. We've not left out the operators. We've not left out the political actors themselves. Just recently, we were able to launch a political parties code to guide the political parties in their political activities. So in that particular political parties code, we have provision for the supporter, the party supporter, the pedestrians who are usually around. We want them to be seen. They should be visible enough. They should obey the traffic rules, not jaywalking, making sure that they don't unnecessarily obstruct traffic. And we also have provisions in there for the parties themselves, the actors themselves. We've also noticed that sometimes, as part of the journey planning, they put together a lot of activities within the short time, and it results in very fast driving, convoy driving, driving between events, sometimes leading to speeding, and its attendant inconsiderate driving. So we've been able to harp on this and treated them to plan their journeys in such a way that there will be ample time between the various stopovers so that they can drive.
From the National Road Safety Authority and into stories about protest. The protest led by proponents of the Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill, commonly referred to as the Anti-Gay Bill, witnessed the diverse group of participants, including activists, community leaders, and concerned citizens, all united in their call for swift legislative action. The lead convener of the Anti-LGBTQ Bill protest said, and Member of Parliament for Ningo Prampram, Sam Nate George, said after petitioning, spoke to the media and indicated that the Chief Justice and Attorney General had been given 14 days to act on the petition.
And the forces of darkness that have conspired in the corridors of power, be they in the executive or the judiciary, to stand against the will of the people of Ghana. That was expressly stated on the 28th of February 2024, when Parliament unanimously did a third reading and passed the Family Values Bill. The President passed his executive secretary at the time, and that's Midday, and we wish him a speedy recovery. Caused him to write a cease she either pays heed to what we are saying, or the power of the people will make it uncomfortable for her to continue to be a cog in the wheel of the leader of justice. Because justice delayed is justice denied. We're heading to the Supreme Court and we will get justice today. Thank you very much for coming.
Away from these local stories, let's take some business news. Former CEO of the Minerals Commission, Dr. Tony Oben, has expressed concerns over the lack of development in areas rich in natural resources despite their contribution to national revenue. He said that the nation hasn't paid attention to mining communities, and in an interview on ABC in the morning, he called on government to focus more on these regions, emphasizing its importance of dedicating attention to areas where our natural resources are exploited to feed the nation. Dr. Oben's remarks come at a time when calls for a more transparent mineral revenue management system are intensifying. He added his voice to the calls from the Ghana Chamber of Mines, urging government to enact a Mineral Revenue Management Act to ensure better accountability and transparency in the use of mineral revenue.
See, social amenities are very wary, not well developed, and all that. So it is important that government dedicates attention to areas where our natural resources are exploited to feed the entire nation. So I think once that fund is set up, they can earmark some aspect that goes into developing the infrastructure of communities. In fact, I have seen in one, the NDC manifesto that says that they are going to establish an offset program where monies from mining, part of it will be earmarked for infrastructure development, roads, hospitals, and all that in mining areas. So that sort of dedicated attention we haven't done for some time now. See,
all for business news, a look at some sports news. President Keto Kweku didn't hold back as he delivered a tough talk to the Black Stars players. With Ghana's 2025 Africa Cup of Nations qualifying hopes hanging by a thread, Kweku laid into the team, expressing his frustration over their recent underwhelming performances ahead of their crucial doubleheader against Sudan this month.
Niger! Come on, guys.
The Black Stars are set to face Sudan at the Accra Sports Stadium on October 10 before heading to Libya for the return fixture on October 15. And that is all for the sports news this afternoon. Let's take some international news. Hurricane Milton is racing towards Florida's west coast, prompting mass evacuations and warnings of catastrophic damage. The National Hurricane Center has issued a storm surge warning for a large area of the west central coast, with expected inundations of 10 feet or greater. The storm is expected to make landfall late Wednesday or early Thursday, bringing with it a historic storm surge. A surge of 10 to 15 feet is possible, surpassing the storm surges from Hurricane Helene, which hit the area just 2 weeks ago. Catastrophic winds of 250 kilometers per hour and gusts over 165 kilometers per hour are expected, causing widespread power outages and damage, and torrential rainfall up to 18 inches is forecasted, leading to life-threatening flashes and urban flooding, as well as moderate to major river flooding. Millions of residents on Florida's west coast have been ordered to evacuate, with traffic jams and fuel shortages reported. The National Weather Service has issued a hurricane warning for the Tampa Bay area, with the city of Tampa potentially facing its first direct hit since 1921. That's all for international. Up next is entertainment. Rapper and entrepreneur Sean Diddy Combs has filed a new appeal to be released from prison while awaiting trial on charges of racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. This marks his third attempt to secure pre-trial release. According to legal documents, Combs' team argues that the prosecutor's push to keep him behind bars is based on speculation and that he poses no conceivable flight risk. They also claimed that the court's previous denials of bail were flawed and that Combs has taken significant steps to demonstrate his commitment to cooperating with the legal process. These steps include relocating from Miami to New York hotel to ensure his availability for surrender, selling his private airplane, and paying off a significant debt on his Miami home. Combs' lawyers contend that these actions demonstrate his willingness to comply with any bail conditions and that he is not a flight risk. The appeal will be reviewed by the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit. If successful, Combs could be released from prison and detained at home pending his trial. That's all for this afternoon's news. We are grateful for your time and your attention. For more news, visit our website www.abcnewsgh.com. Interact with us on our socials at abcnewsgh_. I am Abna Mante. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.